The story opens with a view of a house, several cars parked nearby. The scene quickly cuts inside, where a man moves with determination through the rooms. Abruptly, he halts, a flicker of unease crossing his features. He stumbled upon a suitcase, its presence puzzling him. Why is it here? The narrative then reveals a photograph of 3 people, prompting him to consider consulting the Ajama about it tomorrow. Moments later, he's at a door, lost in contemplation. While standing there, a random thought strikes. He forgot to claim the daily reward in his favorite game. Pushing the door open, he muses that reliance on something can strip away self-discipline. Inside the room, his gaze lands on a fan, spinning idly. As he scans the space, he spots a girl sleeping soundly. Our protagonist, visibly irritated by her slumber, decides to wake her. But first, he checks if she's truly asleep, suspecting he needs something from her. She doesn't stir. Silent, she either remains asleep or chooses not to respond. Accepting this, he slips on sleek headphones and grabs a slice of pie to enjoy. In that instant, he connects his dependence to his stepmother, a realization he doesn't shy away from, perhaps even takes pride in. Time passes, and the noise he's making rouses the sleeping stepmother. Morning breaks, and our glasses-wearing hero approaches her, asking if she slept well. She's bustling around the kitchen, preparing breakfast with a smile, assuring him she slept fine, just like he did. To delight him, she announces a traditional Korean dish for the meal. To his surprise, he's disappointed. He confesses he'd hoped for curry. She gently reminds her indulged stepson that he had curry yesterday, suggesting variety might do him good. She insists the Korean dish is delicious, urging him to try it. Soon, they're seated at the kitchen table, eating. Then, he notices something strange. It feels like she's staring at him, oddly intent. She claims it's just curiosity about whether he enjoys the food. Though he listens, the sensation lingers, unsettling him. He voices his unease, saying he can't savor his meal under her gaze. She says nothing, only meeting his eyes with a faint smile. Frustrated by the tension, he grumbles that the food might give him indigestion. We discover his late father left him with this stepmother, Kwon Hye-soo, now facing him across the table. The scene shifts to 3 cacti, each bearing a name. As he reflects that once tensions eased, they began coexisting. He recalls the unforgettable day she entered his life. As a child, Jae-hwan found her cold and imposing. Around then, Kwon Hye-soo learned his name, and he sensed a threat in her, beautiful yet fierce, as if she might ambush him with cannonballs. Perhaps it stemmed from her longing for a son, a desire she wouldn't let slip. A scream jolts him back to the present, his stepmother, snapping him out of his reverie. She insists he finish his beans, urging him not to dawdle. Reaching over with her chopsticks, she tries to feed him one, asking him to open wider. But Jae-hwan, asserting his independence, reminds her he's no longer a kid. Kwon Hye-soo brushes it off. He'll always be her little one. Resigned, he stops arguing, eats the bean, and admits defeat. She tells him to chew thoroughly and asks if it's good. To keep the peace, he says it's not bad. Kwon Hye-soo beams, crediting his growth to the beans. After breakfast, Jae-hwan recalls the suitcase and asks why it was in the living room. Her face tightens, confusion evident as she scrambles for an explanation. She knows no excuse will hold. Acknowledging his maturity, she starts to speak, but a phone notification cuts her off. Late for work, she promises they'll talk later, leaving him unanswered. Heading to the bathroom, she calls out for him to return from college early. He reluctantly agrees to finish his beans. Alone, he mutters that soybeans have never been less appealing. Later, dressed in fresh clothes, he strolls across campus with a friend griping about the heat. Jae-hwan feels fine, and his friend teases it's because he's skinny, though he claims more muscle. The friend flexes a small bicep, bragging, while Jae-hwan stares, unsure how to respond politely. As they walk, they overhear a guy pestering a girl about homework, her disinterest clear. Curious, Jae-hwan asks his friend what's up. He explains the guy, Sunbae, is angling for lunch with her, despite her rejections. Jae-hwan figures the girl, Suyeon, must get lots of offers, but his friend disagrees. Suddenly, Suyeon spots Jae-hwan, ditches Sunbae, and hurries over, asking if he's college-bound. His friend, stunned, suspects she's asking him out, wondering what Jae-hwan did to win her over. Tired of chit-chat, Suyin whispers she'd like to meet later. Uninterested, Jaehwan cites a promise to return home early for his mother. His friend protests, urging him to stay, but Jaehwan insists she has something vital to say. Walking off, his friend labels him a mama's boy, baffled he'd reject Suyin. On the bus home, Jaehwan stares out the window, lost in thought. He recalls his stepmother's vow to stay by him until college, a memory tinged with sorrow. They've never had that talk, and likely never will. Arriving home, he opens the door, struck by the darkness inside. Kicking off his shoes, he wanders, seeking Kwon Haisu. Finding the light switch, he flips it on, revealing a chaotic, gamer-like mess. Then he remembers the suitcase and checks its spot. It's gone. Staring at the empty space, worry mounts. Dropping his bag, he races to her room for answers. Bursting in, he calls out, anxiety peaking. She's there, standing calmly, as if expecting him. Seeing his distress, she asks what's wrong, noting his sweat. Wordless, he hugs her tightly, terrified she'd left. Surprised but moved, she questions him. He confesses his fear, sparked by the missing suitcase and dark house, begging her not to scare him again. She vows she won't leave. Still shaky, he seeks reassurance, then asks to sleep in her room, citing monsters in his own. Shocked, she hesitates, but he persists. To her, it's bewildering. That night, he explains his fear of solitude. Soon, he's content in her bed, nearly asleep, goal achieved. But the door creaks open, light flooding in. It's her, approaching silently with something to say. Her presence wakes him, startling him. She'd disturb him at night? Unexpected. She lies beside him, and they share the room, safe from monsters. Yet Jaehwan can't sleep, staring at the ceiling, amazed she allowed this. Next to her, nerves keep him awake. Checking, he sees she's asleep, still. Leaning in, he whispers a secret. He fears she'll vanish while he sleeps, and losing her terrifies him. It's strange, maybe off-putting, but her presence stirs intense, confusing emotions he can't untangle. If you like this, hang around a bit longer, maybe subscribe. Hope to catch you next time.